If you could describe Tire Swing in 6 words, what would they be?
Horror.
Shadows.
Queer. Darkness.
Gripping.
It is anxiety.
Science fiction.
Learning to say goodbye to a friend.
Fear of something other.
Sad.
Teen angst.
Memory.
Guilt.
Witty.
Friendship.
And unrequited love.
Tire Swing is a queer horror science fiction play about the disappearance of a 10-year-old boy in a small town. The play follows the children who were involved with the disappearance for the duration of their life in this town, and has grown pretty quickly from a concept about a missing boy to several different drafts of the script, as well as a stage workshop version done by Epigraph. It was then a part of Paprika Festival's playwright and residency program earlier this year. Now we are staging it in downtown Toronto, in Kensington.
People should see a queer horror play because quite often I don't think that those two genres make it to a stage together.
You don't see queer horror plays. When have you seen a queer horror play? We're producing 2 queer horror plays back to back. It's a genre that, for some reason, the LGBTQ people aren't featured in prominently.
Giving voices to marginalized communities is always something that's important to do, and mixing it with a genre like horror is not something you get to see a lot, with queer themes being at the forefront.
I think it's really valuable to see a queer story that isn't about a queer story.
A lot of the times, like queer narratives, the central storyline is about your sexuality, whereas like, you know, obviously queer people live lives. It's kind of this awesome opportunity to like see these queer characters in a play that's not actually about their sexuality.
The stories about queer people that we're beginning to tell right now, you know, have a lot in common with horror and science fiction in that they're about feelings of alienation, and I think it's very cool to explore that in a theatrical setting.
People should see this show because it's genuinely exciting. It's something that goes upon some of our most natural fears.
I think fear is worth exploring on stage because it is such a primal instinct that everyone feels.
It's a powerful emotion, but it's also a delicate emotion that you have to find the right kind of amount of.
Suspense is a really great thing to explore on stage, and theater is a really opportune medium to explore it.
When you watch theater, it's live, and film, there's a safety net behind the screen. With theater, you're there in it. This, when you sit next to them as the horror is experienced behind you. It's kind of like a haunted house. That's why you have to experience it on stage. It's like a sensory experience you won't get anywhere else.
You definitely have to play with production elements like sound and lighting, and you have to play with the absence of things. You have to play with the absence of the monster, essentially.
You get to explore how fear manifests itself rather than focusing on the thing that's actually scary, and how people deal with fear.
What scares me the most about Tire Swing? The unknown, you know? Not knowing where Kevin is.
The speed and pace of the entire show. The stakes are constantly rising more and more and more, and it's very, very intense, all very quickly. It hits you and hits you and hits you every scene, which I think is an incredible talent, an incredible piece of the writing.
The script, in a couple of ways, the actual content is really scary. I can't read it alone at night. And also, it's quite daunting because it's very dense.
It's very real. Like, yes, there's sci-fi and there's these fantastical elements to it, but the catalyst that sets all this off is very real.
Every time in rehearsal, when we acknowledge the story and acknowledge what's actually happening to Kevin, it's so real and it's so intense. Just the fact that this kind of thing actually happens.
And it could have happened to me, and it could have happened to you, and it could happen to anyone you know, and that's what makes it so terrifying.
Tire Swing is, at its core, a play about loss and self-discovery. It's about the things that we leave behind and the things that go bump in the night.